Now we're going to do some modification to our animator. Let's drag the animator up and make it a little bit bigger. I want to show you some more of the power that we have here. Right now we're doing some animation transitions between our walk and jump and our idle and our walk and our idle, and it's a little bit confusing. I feel like when you start to build up these animators, it can be very easy to just get confused and make things that don't make a lot of sense. And that's exactly what happens here relatively quick. So what we're going to do now is delete out our player idle. So we're going to select the player idle and delete it completely. Get rid of all of those transitions that we just created. Don't worry, we're going to do something even cooler. Now we're going to go into our player walk. We're going to right click on it and hit create new blend tree in state. This is going to allow us to create something that will blend between or mix between different animations based on a variable, kind of like our transitions here, but a little bit different. Now, it might look like nothing has happened, but if I click on this and double click it, you'll see that we now have this weird blend tree thing. It doesn't make any sense. If I click on it, it doesn't do anything, just has a slider here. It's a little bit confusing. But what we need to do is click the blend tree and add some motions to it. We're going to hit plus, add a motion field, and plus, and add another motion field. We're going to add our two animations, our walking animation and our idle animation. To do that, we'll hit the little search box here and find player idle for the first one, and then hit the search button again and find our player walk for the second one. Now, what this will do is it's going to blend between the two animations based on what our horizontal value is. So if our horizontal is greater than 0, it's going to go to that one. If it's lower than 0, it's going to go to the other one. What does this mean for us? It means that we don't need to have all of those confusing transitions out here. We just need to have this one player walk with a blend tree in it that will blend between our player locomotion stuff and our jump. And that also means that I want to select this node right here in our animator controller, and I want to rename it. Instead of player walk, I'm going to call this player motion. This is going to be the one that handles idle and walk. So that's what I'll give it a more generic name. And then we've got our jump down here that we transition into out of there. We don't have so many states. Let's hit play and try that out. We should see the exact same behavior. See, so I run, I stop, and I run, and I stop. And if I run and I do the switch back and forth now, though, notice that we don't get that weird mixed up frame in the middle. And our animator controller is drastically simpler. I can still jump while I'm running, I can still jump while I'm standing still, and the correct animation is applied when I land. Either the idle animation if I'm not moving, or the running animation if I am moving. So things are looking quite a bit better. There's another change I'd like to make though to our player code. Let's go into the player script. And let's take a look at this area where we do our update sprite. I mentioned in the last section that we could cache that animator, and that's what I'd like to do. But I'd like to present that again as a small little challenge. See if you can figure out how to cache that animator. Go ahead and try it on your own. Pause the video and then resume on, and I'll show you the steps in case you got lost or had any questions. All right, let's go through it. So to finish our animator, or to cache our animator, we need to take this get component animator call, and we're just going to cut it. So I'm going to hit Control X. Select that, hit Control X. We're going to add in the word underscore animator, and then hit escape, and then I'm going to hit Alt Enter, and we're going to generate, well, it wants me to generate a field or a read-only field. We want to go with a generate field. So we're going to create a new field, and it's not going to know the type. So this is where things get weird, right? Let's hit F12. Make sure that you're on the word animator and go up to the top. And here you'll see that we have a private object animator. What this is, well, a little bit confusing. What's actually happened is the code editor didn't know what type of object we wanted to create. We were getting an animator before, but I deleted that code before I put this variable in here. And it doesn't know that just because it's called animator, there's a thing that matches that. So it just uses the most generic object type that it can. And in C#, that's object, which actually means that everything in C# is an object. It's not a specific type of thing though. So it's not very useful, and we need to give it the type over here. We need to replace object with what we want, which is our animator. So we'll just replace that with animator with a capital A, and now we have our animator reference that we can use down here. But we haven't saved it off yet, so we need to save off our animator, and we're going to do that in the awake. So in Awake, where we get our sprite renderer, we'll just add a new line above it. Say, oh, look at that. It already knows what I want. Underscore animator equals get component animator. Gotta love the AI that's coming in the code editors now. It's making things quite a bit easier. It already is predicting exactly what I'm going to type in there. Now, I also want to get rid of my private keywords up here because I don't need them. So I'll go select them, double click them, hit delete, and delete to get rid of that extra space. I'll do the same for the one on Awake. Now we've got our animator cached and we're using it down here in the update sprite, but you might have noticed that we're not using it on the second line in update sprite on line 63. So I'm going to copy it, replace the get animator part all the way up to the end of the parentheses, and paste with Control V. Save with Control S. Remember, Control Shift B will do a build and it will show me any errors. It will highlight anything that's errored or causing a problem. We don't have anything like that yet. So let's jump into Unity and see if it still works. Should still work. Ideally, when we make these changes, we haven't broken anything. That's why we want to test it though, just to make sure, because if you add an extra brace, typo a name or something else, it's very easy to make a small error that breaks stuff. So we got to test relatively regularly. All right, we jump. Looks good. I can run around, run back and forth. Everything is looking, yep, exactly as I expect. Let's stop playing, go into our plastic SCM and say that we modified our animator and cached our animator, maybe cleaned up and cached our animator. Make sure our scene's saved. It is saved, yep. And oh, I need to go into File and Save Project. We've got to if we don't save project, this is a very important part. If we don't save our project, our animator player or our player controller won't get updated. The project level files, the stuff down here, doesn't get saved when we hit File, Save. That just saves our local scene. We have to go to Save Project to save all of the changes to our project and have this update. Now, there are the times where that just kind of happens automatically, but before we commit, we want to make sure that we do a Save Project. So we've cleaned up our animator controller with a BlendTree or a blend state and cached animator in the player. And then we'll check in our changes.